Hi everyone, and welcome to Eco Convos with Dan again. Really happy to bring to you today. We've got Nick Holliday coming up. Nick was from Belvedere Farms. He does all sorts of agroecology, which is something we're going to learn all about, something I knew nothing about before we had a chat. It was fascinating to catch up with the bloke. Look, honestly, eco-activist. We got a little bit political there as well. So, if you want to get, for a little bit of controversy, why not? So, give us a listen. We'll look forward to talking to you soon. And welcome to Eco Convos with Dan. My name is Dan Vanderhoek and we are live here in Century 21 Platinum Agent Studios here in Gympie. And my guest tonight is Nick Holliday, and we're going to be talking all things regenerative farming. And so it's very exciting. Nick's from Belvedere Farms, just down there in Cedarton. And mate, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what got you at the end of this desk.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate your invite. That is the fundamental thing that got me at the end of this desk.
And that was it. So thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. Please check out our social media.
We should elaborate.
Yeah, we probably should go into more about that.
Yeah.
Well, look, my partner Brydie and I are Belvedere Farm. I've been a farmer now full-time for 6 weeks. But we have
experience counts.
Absolutely. So you should absolutely listen to all of the things that I say. But look, we've had the property since 2014, and I did grow up on a farm as well.
You've got the pedigree there, so
yeah, absolutely. So look, I'm a fourth generation farmer. Going way back, my great grandparents were peasant farmers in Russia. They migrated to Australia in the early 1900s and became tenant cane farmers, landless cane farmers. They did that with relative success for some time, but then prices fell. 6 kids to support on the farm, so the kids went to Brisbane. And then my people, grew up in Brisbane, my parents. But then my mother decided in her late 30s to become a back to the lander and bought a farm that had been under permaculture management for a long time out in Kenilworth. Little small holding up there, and that's where I grew up.
Sorry, Nick, what sort of size operation is that?
Look, tiny. It was a 10-acre little farm up there, little lifestyle property. Yeah. And it was just a paradise when we bought it, having been maintained since the 70s by really early adopters of permaculture.
Yeah, wow.
Really amazing pastures, incredible, deep bed veggie gardens and greenhouses, gravity-fed water systems. It was just a wonderful place. And over the course of about 15 years, my family, and specifically me, destroyed that joint just through really poor conventional management.
So not knowing the background of permaculture, but then actually going through and looking at what's done normally,
So look, I mean, we walked in there essentially as city folks, and you take advice off your neighbours and the feed store and the guy selling you ivermectin and stuff like that. Yeah. And I was reflecting on this on the way up to talk to you today, and because I used to drive on that Bruce Highway every Friday night to go up to that place, and growing up on a place like that is just so wonderful. But I would leave town as a young adult when I was looking after the property by myself, and I'd run down the stairs 2 at a time to get up to the farm, get on the highway. Yeah. But the car was always full of Roundup and chainsaws, and I would go up there, and it would be, well, what am I doing battle with this weekend?
Yes.
Am I worming horses? Am I spraying cattle for ticks? Am I spraying Roundup? Am I chipping Scotch thistles? Am I shooting hares and foxes? Like, it was all about how am I going to control this joint?
Yes.
And you can't. We couldn't do that.
Hence you fought. How long did you fight it?
Yeah, well, 15 years we fought that joint. And I remember shutting the gate in 2014 when that farm was sold and thinking, this does not look like how it started. Yeah. And I felt when I then had the opportunity to buy my own land, because I wasn't going to give up that rural lifestyle, I felt this was my opportunity to try something dramatically different. Okay. So that's what set me on this path, basically.
All right. So you made that change. Did you necessarily make that specific change from conventional farming, moving towards conventional farming,
to doing what you're doing now? Was that a light switch moment for you? Or
Look, I mean, that moment when I realised the damage we did to that property and that I needed to do something different, I had no skills and knowledge about how to do that. And we are fortunate in regenerative agriculture, or in this, sustainability or agroecology community, to have lots of good people you can listen to and get advice from.
Yeah.
And it's all peer-to-peer. It's all people doing what we're doing today and what people listening to this are doing, which is people listening to stories and sharing knowledge like that. Because, I mean, if you want to go out and conventionally farm, there's plenty of places to get info. Yeah. I mean, the DPI will give you info about how to control buffalo fly.
Of course they will.
The dude down at the feed store around the corner, they'll give you advice about what chemicals to buy.
Yeah.
If you want to dive deep into how to run an agroecological farm, you have got to seek out your people and start building those relationships and building that community.
But have you found, I mean, I found just in talking to people, the people who are, wanting to get more into that agro community side of things, that real regenerative agro, they're happy to help. They're happy to teach and spread that story, spread the love.
Absolutely. I mean, what I've always said is that we're part of an incredible community of people doing this
Community
stuff.
is the important word.
Yeah,
it really is.
And particularly on the Sunshine Coast, there are so many other farmers doing exactly what we do.
Yeah,
I could probably name 10 of them right now.
Yeah.
Between where we sit here in Gympie and my place down in Cedarton.
Yeah.
And the important thing that we always remember is that even though they're all selling pasture-raised eggs or heritage breed pork or grass-fed and finished beef like we do, they are not our competitors. They're our colleagues in our community. Sunny Queen eggs are our competitor. Feedlot beef, woolies, they're the people that we've got to worry about. If we are ever going to beat them, if we are ever going to compete on a level playing field, producers have got to get together. Producers have got to help each other and share knowledge.
So why do you want to beat them? I know it's an answer I reckon I know, but come on, tell us why you want to beat them.
I meant to bring an egg carton in today. If you look at our egg carton, about half of them say we're required to tell consumers to keep our eggs refrigerated and eat them fresh. But what ours say is keep refrigerated, eat fresh, destroy factory farming.
Nice.
Some of them say keep refrigerated, eat fresh, destroy capitalism. And those are really fundamental to us because I don't reckon chickens should be kept in battery cages. I don't reckon beef cattle should be kept in dusty, stinking feedlots and fed grain. I don't think that should happen. That's not a world I want to live in. But just thinking that's not enough, right?
Yes.
So when you start thinking that, you then think, I'll go and find a great farmer to buy things from. Yeah. And I'm right here. Visit our website. Please order our stuff. But that's not enough either. Just buying our eggs doesn't destroy factory farming. What we've got to do is start to dismantle some of the systems that prop up factory farming. Certainly. And that's things like regulations that aren't scale appropriate. Yep. This is my bugbear at the moment, and it's something that the Food Sovereignty Alliance, the organisation I'm the vice president of, do a lot of work in this space. Yeah. The best example I can give you of that right now is that Sunny Queen eggs produce, guess how many eggs? I don't know. How many eggs a day is Sunny Queen producing? Millions.
Couple 100 million.
Yeah, probably tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Put a name on it.
Stacks.
Heaps of eggs. Yeah. We produce 300 eggs a day. We pay the same government accreditation fee and are subject to exactly the same set of laws as they are. Yeah. They're out there poisoning waterways. Yep. Big egg farms are the reason that Beer War stinks at night when the wind's not blowing. Yeah. Our farm is beautiful. You can camp next to our chicken caravans. There is no smell, there is no noise, there is no dust. It is a wonderful place to be.
It's not an overcrowded
It's not a horrible place, but we are treated the same as those factory farms when it comes to government regulation, and that's something we've got to chip away at. And the only way we're going to do that is by building some collective power by producers and consumers getting together and demanding it, basically.
Once again, that goes back to what you're saying, that you guys are Belvedere Farms and the other guys are your colleagues. Yeah. You're working together. You've got a single mission, and it's not to drive each other out of business.
No, absolutely not. I have no interest in selling a dozen eggs to someone who usually buys Forage Farm eggs or Tin Shed Farm eggs or Echo Valley eggs. I have an interest in selling a dozen eggs to someone who buys their eggs at Woolies right now. Yeah, that's my interest.
Certainly. Mate, that's such an exciting mission to go in and do it. I mean, it's not a small fight. Yeah. And there's all all the different regulations. things like the farm butchers and things like that to actually be able to go out and butcher stuff on your property. Unless you've ticked all these boxes, that meat's not allowed to let pass that gate, is it?
That's absolutely right. And look, I mean, again, there's actually a group of producers meeting in a Zoom meeting right now as we speak. I've excused myself from it to talk to you, to talk about how we're going to get together and build small-scale abattoirs in our communities. Yeah, because, at the moment, that's actually a real weakness in what we do. Right? I mean, a calf is born on our property from a natural mating of a bull and a cow, no artificial insemination or anything like that. It is grown entirely on grass, never fed anything unnatural. Yeah. It's raised in a low chemical environment. It's low stress. We look after this animal beautifully for 3 years.
Yeah, which is going to make the meat amazing.
Yep, and the meat is incredible.
Yeah.
But when I finish raising that animal, I have to send it into an industrial food chain to have it slaughtered and butchered before it comes out to our consumers. Yeah. I would love to lead that animal to an area on my farm, respectfully slaughter it, get it processed on farm.
Because you have no say how it's going to happen.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And, when we drop our animals live off at the butcher, that is a really difficult moment for us as farmers who really care about their livestock, because that is the moment that I lose control of their care. And that does bother me. So I would love that to be something that we can do in our local community. 6 or 8 producers get together, share the costs of building a farm butcher, and start sort of taking control of that part of our production cycle.
So wouldn't that be wonderful? And that is delving into that grassroots community action. Yeah. That's working with your locals, that's working with your neighbours, and providing for your local community, local area. Yeah, that's fantastic. What a goal.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It keeps us busy.
Yeah. So Nick, how you guys been running now for a couple of years down at Cedarton?
Yep. Yeah. So look, bought the block of land in 2014 and started running cattle on it. Added a flock of pasture-based chickens a year or so later. Pork is a more recent thing for us. Yep. We sort of accidentally became pig farmers. So you're
going.
Yeah. Look, we had. I had no intention of becoming a pig farmer because the only pig farming experience I had was driving past stinking industrial piggeries. Yeah, right? The first pasture-raised pigs I ever saw were actually my own.
Wow.
Yeah, so look, we had a patch of bladey grass, which is a scourge around here. It's a very tough grass. It's not palatable to cattle. A lot of farmers around here just wick wipe it with Roundup. And hope
we all know what that does to the waterways.
And look, and just hope nothing worse comes back up underneath it. And we would never do that, but there were some really persistent patches of bladey grass we had, and I thought, pigs are an animal that root through the dirt. Yeah. I'll put a couple of pigs on this area. We'll move them around on this bladey grass. We'll see what their action in the soil does. We'll enjoy some pork at home. We'll share it with our friends and family, and we'll just see how we go. So we did that, and Polly and Pearl were our first 2 Berkshire pigs, and they just did the most incredible job. We had an acre patch of bladey grass and bracken fern that cattle wouldn't graze. It was okay for the chickens to walk through, but they weren't getting anything through it. Yeah. Those 2 pigs, over the course of the 3 or 4 months that we moved them across that area, dug up that bladey grass, and it has come back in the most diverse mix of legumes and grasses and forbs.
Yeah, wow.
We ate the pork. We shared some of it with our family and friends, and it was incredible. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we're pig farmers.
Yeah. It's that difference between that pasture raised. That makes such a difference between the flavour and just the happiness of the animals as well.
Absolutely. Look, I mean. The ethical choice in terms of where you get your protein from is important with eggs. I mean, we know how terribly battery hens are raised, for instance. It's important for cattle because, anyone who's driven through Dalby knows how bad a feedlot is. Yeah. But pigs are, everyone knows it, right? They're an intelligent animal. But we're
told that, but I don't know if it's really gets out there how much, how intelligent they actually are, because we hear about them all the time. Yeah, we don't actually. We hear that anecdotally. Yeah, but we don't actually hear why.
Absolutely. Well, look, my best example of how smart pigs are is that you can't trust a pig with a water trough like you can with a dog or a horse or a cow, right? Because they'll knock it over, they'll smash it into the dirt. They're a very strong animal.
Roll around in it and love it.
So in our mobile pasture-based system, we have adopted something that industrial indoor piggeries invented, which is the pig nipple, which sounds a bit saucy, but what it actually...
Kinky pigs.
Yeah. What a pig nipple is a little piece of stainless steel tube cut in half, so it's a little half pipe. I'm making hand actions here, which is useless for a podcast.
That's right. The YouTube can see it.
Oh,
so.
Hey YouTube. And there's a stick in the middle of that, and basically when they bite down on that stick, water flows, and they can drink freely from it. But there's nothing for them to smash and knock into the dirt and fill with mud.
Outsmarting the intelligent animals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we don't breed our own pigs yet. That's in the future for us. We buy little weaner pigs from other farmers like us, and we buy pigs from a guy who does use a trough. I've never asked him how. He must be a much better farmer than me. Yeah. But
puts them in the classroom early.
We don't train those pigs to use that pig nipple. So these things have lived their whole lives drinking out of a bucket of water that they can see on the ground.
Yeah.
We drop them into the paddock. They are used to following people. I walk them over. I press that pig nipple once so that a drip of water comes out of it. One of them bites it. And then within 25 minutes, they all know how to use this new piece of technology.
Yeah, well,
you couldn't teach a bunch of young humans to do something like that quickly. They're an incredible animal.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. Yeah. So Nick, well, in terms of going back to what you were saying before, actually about how you're breeding your cattle. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, please? You hear all the stories of people keeping their bulls separate and whatnot, or hiring in bulls and things like that. So you guys don't do that.
Absolutely. So look, I mean, this is absolutely not farming advice for new farmers because what we do on the farm is actually not widely adopted. But our bull runs with our cows all year round.
Yeah, right.
So what that means is that we don't have a calving season that's really compressed.
Yeah.
Beef cattle farmers typically aim for a really compressed calving season for a few reasons. First, you get a really even lot of calves to send off to the sale yards at weaning time. They're all the same age. But also a lot of breeders, particularly those who are using really high performance genetics like artificial insemination and things like that, bringing in straws of semen from overseas bulls, things like that. They really have to watch out for calving difficulties. So, helping to pull a calf, helping a cow birth their progeny, and you don't want to be on high alert for that the whole year round.
Yeah. So sorry, just to kick in there. Yeah. In terms of I've heard of people artificial inseminating and getting specific strains and specific getting specific genes into it. Is that specifically so that you can have desirable offspring?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And, stud cattle is a big money operation now. And, importing genetics from overseas is really common. There's nothing wrong with that if your goal is to produce a very shiny, gigantic drought master calf.
Going to win competitions at the
that you can take to the Maleny show and win a rosette or whatever. And that's a really valid goal for them. Yeah. But what we're about is producing grass-fed beef naturally with as few agricultural chemicals as possible.
Right. I just really still find that really amazing. And we can't even get Australian-made bull semen.
Yeah, I mean, look, you absolutely, you absolutely
can.
But look, importing overseas genetics is super common, but we don't find it applicable to our situation because we are trying to build a scrappy little herd of cattle that can, really forage on a wide variety of grasses. They don't need a great deal of pampering. They don't need improved pasture. They don't need to be sprayed for ticks every 5 minutes. Yeah. And the way you do that is by treating them as you mean to treat them into the future. So. We have boarding cattle. We are using a mix of Hereford breeding cows.
Yeah.
They're the lovely brown and white ones.
I like Herefords.
Which was, look, I love Herefords too. They're actually not an amazing choice for subtropical Queensland, but we had them on the family farm as a kid and I had to make that nostalgic choice and I was just going to live with it. And we use a low-line Angus bull, which is a black Angus bull of shorter stature. And the reason that we do that is because the bull is of shorter stature than the cows, we get small calves that don't cause calving difficulties. I have never in 6 years pulled a calf, which I bet most beef producers can't reproduce. Yeah. And these smaller stature calves fatten well on grass.
Yeah, okay.
The big cattle...
So they're not quite miniatures though?
No, they're not miniatures. They still hang at a respectable hanging weight when we produce grass-fed beef. But they are not these big leggy racehorse drought masters that we see around here that take feedlot feeding to put on fat. Ours are fat as pigs at 2 years old, fed only forage from the farm.
Yeah. So in terms of that, you got your feedlot cattle and whatnot. They are fed grains, and specifically to bloat them, isn't it?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, what the feedlots want is a big, tall cow or a big, tall steer with lots of bone, so that when they pump the high protein, high energy feed into it, it fills out all that bone with meat.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for us, because when they're only eating grass, which is a low quality forage, we need them to grow all of their bone really quickly and then start putting on fat at an early age.
Yeah.
And that's what we get with those smaller animals.
Yeah. And so there is a difference. There's a difference in the quality, just even on the table.
Absolutely.
Not even just how it is for the cows themselves. And raising can't get much more natural than how you're doing it.
Absolutely, and look, the eating quality of those breeds is just incredible.
Yeah.
It does come with a downside in our area, which is that we do struggle with ticks because they don't have a natural immunity to ticks that some breeds do. And we use chemical-free practices in every aspect of the farm, but we do spray the cattle for ticks a couple of times a year. Okay. That's our last agricultural chemical, and I've got lots of great mentors who are weaning me off that like cigarettes. But that's the last chemical we use on the farm. We have never used Roundup, never used a whole range of agricultural chemicals except that spray a couple of times a year.
So is that because you haven't found there isn't another effective way to do it, or
so there's a bunch of effective ways of doing it. You can put sulfur in their feed, which is really incredible. Okay. We use a Boss bag that's made locally, which allows them to dust themselves with diatomaceous earth, which is a natural insecticide. The frequent paddock rotations really help. The following the cattle with the chicken flock really helps, as they pick up the worms and things like that. And that's allowed us to have no problems with worms or buffalo flies or those things that usually plague cattle around here. I can't beat those ticks.
Yes.
But the best advice I've received about this is from a local guy who's very knowledgeable, Tim Scott, who
we all know.
Who said,
Tim.
from Bosrur on the Kandanga farm store, and he says, well, if you really think you've got a tick problem, you can just squint and you don't see them as well. And look, I think that's good advice, because when we farm naturally, our goal is absolutely animal welfare.
Yes.
But our goal is not necessarily shiny show cattle.
Yeah.
And it's about finding that balance of really great animal welfare while also not using gross agricultural chemicals and things like that. And that's the balance we aim to strike.
Yeah. Well, that's very, very, very cool. And I think that's the goal. It should be everyone's end goal.
Yeah.
And do you think do you find it becoming a bit more of an acceptable practice? Rather than conventional farming has been going on since the 30s and 40s.
Yep.
That's spray, monoculture.
Yeah.
Do you find it's started to change?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, more and more producers are adopting the practices like we are because the market's demanding it.
Yeah. That's for all the consumers out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Demand real food.
Yeah, look, absolutely, and I mean, and that's whether it's chemical free, that's whether it's grass fed, that's whether it's pasture-raised eggs, it's whether it's heritage breed pork rather than industrial breeds. All of these things are being driven by consumer demand, but it's even really big issues. Like, I mean, who would have thought Meat and Livestock Australia, our peak industry body, would have committed to action on climate change? For instance, this is not me promoting them. I think I think they're years behind the times in some ways, but it proves
it shows that things can change.
Things can change, and consumers can drive change, and collectivism can drive change. So
I think consumers can start to drive change as well. And it can happen in the larger supermarket setting as well.
Yep.
You start seeing a number of years ago there wasn't the option for organic produce.
Yep.
There is now.
Yep.
There's still maybe issues with how things are done.
Yep.
And how that organic certification can come by.
Yep.
It's not necessarily using the same sort of practices that we've been talking about.
Absolutely.
But when the market is there,
yep,
the suppliers will respond.
Look, absolutely. What you got to watch out for with that though is greenwashing.
Yes. Yes.
So you will see in the next 3 years pasture-raised eggs in Woolies.
Yep.
And I bet those eggs, when you go to that farm, don't look like my farm.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got to watch out for. I want to talk about a really radical vision for that, though.
Just really quickly before, how do you source that? How do you figure out the truth from the untruth? What
a great segue into what I was about to go off about. Okay, great. You need that transparency. You need that relationship with the farmer. You can't trust Woolies to tell you what good food is. I mean, everyone knows that. That's not a radical statement.
No, not at all.
You need to be able to buy your food from somewhere where you can go out to the farm and have a real good look at it. And we're not
have the farmers willing to have you there.
Yeah, and look, we're not organic certified. We're not sustainable certified. We don't carry any certifications because we're customer certified.
Yeah.
Our customers can follow us on social media. They can come out to the farm for a farm tour. They can call me up and say, hey, are you using poor-on insecticide? And I can tell them I'm not. That's the relationship that we want with our consumers. Yeah. But there is a fundamental weakness to that where in today's society, there will only ever be a few people who got the time to come to a car park on a Tuesday evening and buy my eggs as though they were crack cocaine. Yes. Just as addictive, much cheaper.
I was going to say there is a slight price difference though.
Yeah, there's a price difference.
As far as I understand.
Fill your boots with both, obviously. But we're really, as agroecological farmers, we are limiting our market because it's hard to get our stuff. And some people really love that. Some people say, well, I only want to feed people who really get what I'm doing. Yeah. And I love people who get what I'm doing, right? Like I love those people who come back every week and ask me where the chickens are on the property at the moment and things like that. But that's not how we blow up Woolworths. No. How we blow up Woolworths is us as producers getting together and buying an IGA.
Yes.
Right? The story
you buy your distribution network.
Yeah, look, the story I always tell about this, and it's so telling, is that I own a mobile cool room for transporting our beef and pork around. We've all required to have one. I own one. Forage Farms owns one. Tim and Amber Scott from the Kandanga Farm Store own one. Yeah. Our friends at Tin Shed Farm own one. Echo Valley Farm own one. And every Saturday morning, we race each other up and down the highway, dragging these things in the same direction to the same places. Yeah. It's insane. If we all got rid of those and got together, all the money we spent on our fridge trailers and all the time and petrol we burn off our farm, we could have bought a refrigerated transport truck and paid someone to come around to our farm and do our deliveries for us. Yeah. We need to get wise and get together as producers and start providing a really smart, accessible alternative solution. Because when we start doing that, people don't have to come to a car park in the middle of the night to buy my eggs. People could walk into a brick and mortar store and buy them or something else. Yes. Not jumping into the fringes of what Woolworths do, but taking on Woolworths on their own ground. That's what I'm excited about doing.
So is there a network that is looking into this?
There's so many great collectives coming together. The Australian Food Sovereignty Alliance does really great work nationally about this, taking the fight to government, skilling producers, growing more farmers. AFSA is running an agroecology school at my farm in the next couple of months. So please check out our website for an invite to that. That is going to be incredible. We will have all the links and everything
for all this.
Yeah, our president Tammy Jonas from Jonai Farms, farming celebrity, is going to come up and run that at Belvedere Farm. That's going to be wonderful. Locally, we've got the Food and Agribusiness Network up here. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of producer collectives, formal and informal, coming together, and they are the most exciting thing about farming for me. Yeah. I mean, I love sitting on the tractor. I love grading eggs. I love moving cattle. Moving cattle is my favourite thing to do. I do it every single morning, roll up an electric fence and walk them forward into fresh pasture. Yeah, yeah. It's beautiful.
So you daily rotate paddocks?
Yeah, daily move. But what gets me out of bed is the idea that we can build a system where everyone gets to feel that good about moving cattle. That's awesome. And where people get to eat the meat that I produce doing that easily and affordably. It's a whole ecosystem. It's not just the producer. It's not just the consumer. It's about creating an awesome world.
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, it's one of the things I love about talking to people, through on this podcast and out and about, is the passion that people have for actually going through. It's the passion for the animals, passion for nature, and passion for actually bringing stuff back to the way it was before we screwed it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not necessarily like, you want to go back to the dark ages and we can't feed the world with this. That's a really hollow argument that you hear, I reckon. The fact is that agribusiness, big business, Monsanto, all of those corporations we love to bag out, they're actually not feeding the world at the moment. most of the world's food is produced by landless smallholder women in the third world, basically. Yes. So Monsanto and combine harvesters don't feed the world. Women in Africa with hand tools feed the world.
Yeah.
Monsanto feeds Canada, the United States, parts of South America, Australia, parts of Europe.
Yeah.
And we don't need them. We can feed ourselves. This can be a revolution that we undertake, but we've got to get smart about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I'm all about helping people grasp hold of those concepts, basically.
Yeah, I think it's exciting the idea that there is a revolution in farming. Yeah. You know, and there has been for a long time a lot of concern about what is going to be happening. Our primary production in Australia is primary producers.
Yep.
You know what's going to happen to that? Is it a dying industry? And we've heard talk about the dairy farms dying out. We've heard talk about the beef cattle.
Yeah.
And it's all going to overseas or processed foods. There is a revolution, and it is happening, and you can see it is spreading, and it's starting to get a bit more exciting.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I mean, every day people are adopting new practices. Every day people are seeing that the way to bring life to their farm is by adopting some of these agroecological processes. And I mean, it's a broad church too. And I mean, we do have to watch that greenwashing where I would not consider that you're practicing agroecology or regenerative agriculture in your feedlot because you've switched to organic grains.
Yes.
We've got to get together as a society and decide what farming practices we're into and what we're not. And at the moment, we just kind of handed this system we've got. Like, here it is, your food's in Woolies, there you go. Yeah. And my view with this stuff, like, I talk about revolution a lot, right? My view is if people actually had a real proper shake at democratically determining their food system and decided they wanted wheat bix from industrial grains and nice fat feedlot beef and $2 a kilo chicken, if that's what people genuinely want, knowing all of the consequences of that, fill your boots. You can have it. I'll go and build a shed and put my chickens inside it. But we don't. No one gets that choice at the moment. We've just got this system for kind of no reason because it exists, and people don't know there's an alternative to it.
And I think the not knowing exactly what goes on behind Coles doors, closed doors, because you walk into the shop, you get your tray, it's covered in glad wrap over the top. It's got the sticker on it and says it's got a really nice picture of a farm on there. Yep. So it makes you feel good when you go and buy it, but you don't actually think about what actually goes on behind.
Absolutely, that's such an important one. Our food, the food that we produce on our farm, is real food that looks like real food. So when you buy a pork roast from us, you will notice it has a few black hairs on it.
Yep.
There's been hair on every piece of pork skin you've ever eaten. But there has. But those gross industrial pigs that never saw sunlight, lived in a climate-controlled shed and were translucent pink and white, you can't see the hairs.
Yeah.
So consumers look at our pork belly and say, "Oh, what's going on with that?" And I say, "You are eating an animal."
Yeah.
We will not hide the fact that you are eating an animal in a historically normal way, and that is a learning curve for consumers sometimes. But we ask people to come on the journey with us, understand that we're providing them heritage breed pork and that it tastes better, and we're preserving biodiversity. And what that means is, you see this.
So Nick, when you go into the shops and you buy your beautifully packaged foods, what would be the difference if we actually went in and kind of adopted the cigarette sort of idea, the broken down lungs, the dead dude lying down on the thing. I quit cigarettes just over 18 months ago.
Well done, mate. Me too.
Yeah, well done. Team no diaries.
Yeah.
So, but that sort of graphic imagery.
Yep.
If we actually incorporated that into the stuff you had to do it when you bought battery hand.
Yeah.
When you bought grain fed meat, when you bought mass produced stuff. Would that make a bit of a difference, you reckon?
Absolutely. I mean, look, as ex-smokers, we know that we looked at those gross photos every day and still bought cigarettes. So that's like a comment on human psychology that I sort of can't delve into.
Look, I think it's more of a comment on addiction because you choose not to look at that.
Absolutely.
But you can't help but see it.
Yeah.
So I still close my eyes and I see those bloody images.
You see that? Yeah. See that photo. I won't describe it for people's benefit, but look, you're dead right. I mean, if a packet of eggs had to have an actual photo of the farm on it, the egg industry would change.
I agree.
And, that's also about making sure that we demonstrate real options, because you can actually get on the Sunny Queen site and look at their free range. I'm doing air quotes for free range on this.
You could almost hear those air quotes.
Yeah,
so
you can. I'll bang the microphone as I go. You look at that free range farm, and those chickens absolutely have access to outdoors. Can't deny it. Better than being in cages.
Yes.
But when you close your eyes and think of a free range farm, you are thinking of my farm.
Yeah.
You are thinking of birds tweeting.
Well, that's what
and
the ads.
kangaroos hopping.
That's what the TV ads show.
Yeah. The Sunny Queen free range farm is not like that.
Yeah.
It's a dirt pile. And I mean, at least the chickens are outdoors, but it's a dirt pile. So, I'll put our food up against anyone's. And then I think the welfare of the animal, the heritage breed, the diversity, the care we put into the land is reflected in the quality of the food.
Yeah.
We are about producing nutrient-dense food. People are talking now about, should we even be buying food by weight, or should we be buying it by nutrient density?
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, and I mean, that's science fiction stuff to me, and there's smarter people than me that are working on that. But what I know is that we've got really healthy animals, we've got really healthy waterways, we've got great biodiversity on our property, and that produces great food for my community. I would put our practices up against anyone's, particularly all of these industrial farms. And I think people who have an opportunity and who can afford it, and that's an important one, would choose ours every time.
Yeah.
What we got to do is work out how to make good food more affordable and more accessible for people.
I think that's really important thing, because we were just talking about before about the idea, buying just the simplest free range eggs, that used to bring my wife to tears every time we couldn't afford it. There was certainly a good period of time we literally could not afford it.
Yep.
So we stopped buying eggs.
Yep.
We stopped actually doing those things because we just couldn't bring ourselves to do it. What do we do in order to be able to get that stuff more affordable?
This is such a rich discussion, right? Because our eggs are $9 a dozen at the moment, and for us that's the bare bones, right? I mean that's just paying ourselves a wage. That's not building an amazing business yet.
That's fair.
And your free range eggs at Woolies are $4.50 a dozen or something like that. But the thing you got to know about this before you can have any discussion about this is that the $9 you pay for our eggs includes every single cost associated with producing an egg worth eating.
Yes.
What does that mean? Well, you got to buy a chicken, you got to house a chicken, you got to feed a chicken, and we do all of that beautifully. So that costs more.
Yeah.
But those cheap eggs, there's a bunch of costs that you don't pay that someone else has got to pay.
Yeah.
So who pays for the $4.50 eggs? Who pays the additional $4.50 that's missing? Well, people who live near industrial chicken farms pay it because their air stinks at night. So they're paying a cost of those.
Not just nighttime.
Yep, absolutely. People who use local creeks and waterways pay because those industrial chicken farms pollute waterways.
Yeah.
Workers pay because those industrial chicken farms are awful places to work, and the employees in those chicken farms are treated brutally and paid terribly.
Yeah.
Transport companies pay some of that cost because transport of food in Australia doesn't pay living wages for transport drivers. Yeah. All of those costs, the missing $4.50 between my eggs and the supermarket eggs, the costs are paid by someone. It's just not the consumer. What we've got to work out is how not we externalise costs, but how we either increase living standards so that everyone can buy my $9 eggs, which I'm really into, become a member of your union. But what we can also do is collaborate as producers to bring our costs down. Because when I call the feed store and say, hey, I feed 300 chickens, can I have a great deal on chicken feed? They say, 300, that's cute. What are their names? If I called the feed store and say, I represent a buying cooperative of 15 pasture-raised egg producers.
We have 2.6 million.
And we want to buy 10 tonnes of feed, that's a very different conversation. And I think that's how we do it. I know I've banged on this whole interview about collectivising, but that's the only way we're going to get all the awesome things that we all do out to consumers.
But that's how small farms can exist, and that's how they can, by not actually being taken over by corporations.
Yep.
And not actually going out and doing that, and existing, living ethically, producing ethical foods, producing nutrient-rich foods, as you're saying, and going through and actually continuing to do that for the consumer, for the Australian public.
Yep.
We can do that by doing this.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And that's actually a good segue into something else that I love to talk about when I'm explaining what we do to people is you'll see us use a term that you might not have heard before. It's agroecology.
Yeah, you did mention that before.
Yeah. So look, everyone in our movement talks about regenerative agriculture or sustainability or whatever. And, there's strong arguments around why we can't have sustainability.
Yeah.
Regenerative agriculture is a great thing. People undertaking regenerative agriculture are typically doing great work, but regenerative agriculture typically describes a set of practices.
Okay.
Your daily cattle moves, you're reducing your agricultural chemicals, your use of heritage breeds, your promotion of biodiversity. When we talk about agroecology, I don't like to dicker about semantics either, but agroecology is a term that incorporates the practices, the good stuff we do every day, but also the idea of building a social movement to collaborate and connect eaters, consumers, middle persons, podcasters, connecting all of those people together so that system can thrive in an ecosystem rather than it just being about me on my farm doing good work by myself. So that's why we talk about agroecology.
Yeah, mate, I think that's an important distinction to make there, because it is really, it becomes an umbrella thing, doesn't it? It's, it incorporates the whole lot. But I think that's absolutely fantastic. And we've got to kind of wrap it up pretty soon. I really appreciate your time tonight, mate. It's been a brilliant conversation. I've learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else has as well. And mate. So look, first up, thank you so much for coming along. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, mate. I mean, look, I love talking about this. It's an important part of our life's work. As I said, not just to do the good stuff, but to talk to people, to bring people on board, to grow other producers, to help people. There might be someone listening to this podcast who has bought a lifestyle property who thinks they might be able to raise a few chickens, or who own a few cattle and want to go to daily moves and stop using chemicals. I want them to feel inspired by what we do, and I want them to have good access to information and community. So, opportunities like talking to you today are just so important to me.
Just I think in going on that, I think that's an important thing to point out. You don't need to have 5,000 acres to be a producer.
Absolutely not. And look, this is like starting up a whole other rich conversation for us, but the biggest part of our farming operation is on borrowed land.
Yeah.
We only have 20 acres we own at home. We lease another 80. Yes. And that's where we raise our pigs. We've leased a very degraded block of land, a thicket of lantana and devil's figs and wild tobacco, and we are using pigs without chemicals, without heavy machinery to clear that and create dense pasture behind them. So, look, I mean, you don't even need to own 1,000 acres. You don't even need to own 10 acres to become a farmer. There are always options available to you if you've got the community around you.
Yep, and the drive.
And the drive.
So, mate, look, that's awesome. And I think one of the things I want to do is actually we want to go over and actually come and visit your place. Do a bit of a video on there. And I hadn't talked to you about this before, but I want to actually see the difference between your eggs and the cage board eggs.
Let's do
it.
it.
We go to the shops, grab them, and I want to crack one and fry it up.
Yeah.
See the difference.
Let's do it.
Because I reckon it's going to be pretty massive.
You'll have to buy them though, mate. I wouldn't want to ruin my reputation by being seen with them in my shopping cart.
That's more than fair enough. I think I might get someone else to buy them for me.
We'll send someone in a ski mask to get those.
That's right, balaclava. So, Nick, thank you so much for that, mate. Look, I'll go through and do 6 questions that I ask of everybody.
All right,
you ready for the 6 and 60?
Yeah, all right. I'm so ready.
Okay, awesome. Mate, number 1, what's the personal habit that contributes to your success?
Look, I am a worker. I get up every day and try and do the job to the best of my ability. Sometimes at my own expense. Sometimes at the expense of good sense. But look, that's what I admire about myself. That I have a drive to get up and get it done.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
A fella called Randall gave it to me. He's a fellow farmer, and he said it was advice he gave himself that I've taken on since. It said you should be a patient, attentive observer.
Nice. What's the one thing that you're most fired up about today?
Collectivism. You could probably tell.
We have touched on that.
Yeah.
So, if you could recommend one book or podcast, you can't recommend this, but you can recommend this podcast.
I would obviously recommend this podcast.
But, okay, if you could recommend 2, what would you recommend?
Look, I'd recommend you read Dark Emu
Yep.
Because all of this...
We've had dark humour brought up before.
Yeah, I bet you have. Because, look, all of this good stuff I do is white fella stuff, but the fact is people have been feeding themselves on country around here for 50,000 years, and we've got a lot to learn from them.
Absolutely. What would be your personal goals that you're hoping to achieve for the next 12 months?
In the next 12 months, well, look, we're not going to destroy capitalism in the next 12 months.
No.
So
we'll give you 18 months to do that.
Yeah. What I would really love to do is develop our farm business to the point where it can support our family, so that we can continue to expand this good community work that we're trying to do.
Awesome. Right, our last mystery question: would you rather fight a bull-sized chicken or 100 chicken-sized bulls?
Good grief, they both sound terrifying.
It's what bad dreams are made out of.
No, it's actually, both terrifying, but it would absolutely, I would rather not fight the bull-sized chicken, because I've always said that if chickens were just a little bit bigger, like they don't have to be human-sized, even just a little bit bigger, they would be hunting us in packs. So I don't want to experience a chicken any bigger than my current chickens, thank you.
So we're continuing the chicken hate. They hate while loving the chickens.
Well, it's more of just like a healthy fear.
Respect. Nick, mate, thank you so much for coming along. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you tonight. I really, really appreciate your time. So, Nick from Belvedere Farms, we're going to have all the links to the stuff we were talking about this evening. We're going to have it all over our social media, all over our webpage, and wherever else you find this information. Nick, is there anything else you wanted to pop in before we finish up?
Really appreciated the opportunity. I would say to anyone who is listening to this, who is interested in finding out more, check out our social media. Sometimes we feel like I'm just an Instagram account that also has a farm. But contact me. If you want advice, if you want to get started, if you're excited about something that we've said in this podcast, if you think something I've said in this podcast is absolute rubbish, come and argue about it. I want to keep this conversation
going. Jump on the comments on this as well. We will absolutely continue this.
We're going to progress as a movement if we keep these conversations going. So that's what I'm encouraging folks to do.
Most certainly. My favourite eco-anarchist.
Thank you very much,
Nick.
Mate.
Thank you very much. Ciao, everyone.
I really hope you enjoyed that. Nick was a fantastic bloke to have along. We stayed around, had a bit of more of a chat as well afterwards. What an interesting fella. There's a lot more you can learn from Belvedere Farms, so following them on Facebook and Insta. You can also follow us, so make sure you like, share and subscribe. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts from as well. Talk to you soon.